Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Today we have a really interesting guest, a fascinating guest who's a fitness professional, fitness model, and also a professional athlete. Yvette, welcome to the show. Good to see you on the show, Yvette Geary.
Hello, thank you for today.
No, fantastic. And can you tell us a bit about what you do, Yvette? You've got a number of roles there. You work as a fitness professional, you do the fitness modeling and professional athlete. Can you give us an idea of what you sort of do, an overview of what's of your working week, so to speak? I know you're sort of involved in a number of different projects, so it's quite fascinating.
It is, yeah. As you very much said, it's very varied for me. I'm very fortunate with one. I'm very passionate about what I do. But a working week for me, obviously, focusing very much on online clients and developing, obviously, the online that I have. In addition to photo promotional stuff and prepping myself for competitions as well. I also continually do studying because I think within this industry, everything's very, there's always new information coming on board. There's always something new that you've got to learn. And for me, it's about keeping the loop with everyone else, because that communication link within the fitness industry is key to growing and evolving and being quite successful in what you do.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. I think it's a life learning journey, and certainly things in the fitness industry are always evolving. There's new stuff coming out there, scientific research all the time. So it's really important to stay at the forefront for sure. And what was your motivation to go into fitness, Yvette? What sort of motivated you?
I think, I mean, believe it or not, when I was younger, school age, I absolutely hated PE. Never wanted to be involved in sport whatsoever. And then when I left school, I realised, I think as girls do, kind of get a little bit of an issue with, didn't want to be fat. I started having issues with what you would call body dysmorphia and, thinking I was fat and I wasn't. So for me, initially, I thought that I had to go to the gym so that I didn't get fat. And that's where it started. And from then, it's been such an amazing journey because I've learned so much about myself, in addition to the importance of making sure that, yes, be involved in, keeping yourself healthy and fit, but do it in a really sensible way. And I think for me, that's where it kind of grew. And I think years ago, I suffered quite a lot with what you would class as like anxiety, depression. And for me, going to the gym was the best way to manage it. It was a place where I could release, find myself, and that then allowed me to take control over a lot more things in my life. So I've benefited from so much, and it's not just about, want to look good, because for me, a lot of people go down to vanity. It really isn't. And once you get to know a lot of people, you find out that, the way that they are and that they're so dedicated and committed to what they do, it's that when that's kind of helped them to progress to the point that it requires a lot of physical and mental strength. And for me, I learned a lot about coping strategies, coping mechanisms to deal with a lot of other things that I had going on with my life, and everything else grew from there. And now I've got a massive passion. So for me now, it's less about not wanting to get fat and more about the rest of the health benefits, mental and physical, that I get from it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you made, and certainly there's research out there that suggests that exercise produces endorphins in the brain and chemicals in the brain that are quite effective. And for me, exercise, that can be anything from going for a walk in the countryside, a walk around a lake, or could be going for a bike ride, or going in the gym if that's your thing as well. And having said that, I mean, you mentioned weight, and I think for me, this is my sort of thoughts and my opinion. I think that a lot of pressure on anyone, a lot of people these days. I mean, I think sometimes the way I see it, probably teenaged, I think, of any age, but they kind of see in the media, and there's almost like an expectation. And I think that there's a lot of people sort of, suffering. And I'm not just saying young women, also men as well, and also women and men of any age. But I would think, in my experience, one of the areas that seems to be targeted is young women. And if you're sort of seeing these people in magazines that have got this image and portrayed in a certain way, it must make you feel, well, actually, you know what? And I think in a way, in a way for me, there is the benefits from a mental point of view in that respect, but also there's a fine line, Yvette, and my concern is for some people, maybe they might get a bit obsessed and not realise that actually, you know what, the people they see in the media are probably not even 0.1%, and they're not always that way. You know, most of the time they're probably not even that way anyway. You know, on the media, but you know, Photoshop and all that stuff. So I think that the media doesn't always portray reality. You know, obviously people like yourself who work really, really hard and you do fantastically well. But I'd like to see your thoughts. I mean, is that the case? Do you find that maybe young women in general, not to generalise, but I suppose men as well, people of any age, sometimes look and see the fitness industry and think it almost kind of, they almost sort of see an industry that puts pressure on, makes them feel maybe inadequate, that, you know, they have to be perfect, they have to be, when true perfection is imperfection. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious to know.
Very good points, because in the black and white of it all, that's exactly how it is a lot of the time. And, you know, the pressures that come on younger people these days is intense, and not just from the fitness industry. It's also across the board with any media, you know, and whether you get magazines.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I would say that I see as a positive with the fitness industry is it really does take away a lot of emphasis from this very skinny, unhealthy look that a lot of young people they have to look like in order to be a model, if that is what they're wanting to do. Within the fitness industry, like with any other industry, there's a lot of stereotypical, you know, views that go on with bodybuilders, steroids, you know, women that, you know, think they're something and they're not. And hopefully, as time goes on, I think as the fitness industry is growing and getting bigger, I think people see that it's actually a really positive thing to be part of. But just going back to your point about the pressure on people to look a particular way, you know, you could argue that with anything. You know, you see an advert for you know, skincare. So, you know, people think, oh, I've got to have perfect skin at the age of 45 because I've got to buy anti-wrinkle cream. Pressures come from everywhere within social media. And I do really, you know, I don't like the fact that the pressures come, especially on the younger girls. And one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is ready to launch my own studio. Which basically offers one-to-one training for people across the board. And hopefully I can focus on a lot of young girls who have issues with body dysmorphia, even though they could be completely beautiful, because of all these pressures that go on. Because as an ex-youth offending officer myself, I've worked with the extreme, you know, in terms of young people behaviour, drugs and alcohol issues, peer issues. So I really do have an understanding of where their mentality is at and where their pressures come from. And one of the reasons I wanted to open the studio was so that I could offer not just those young people, but even women that don't want to step foot into a gym. Because like you mentioned before, being fit and healthy doesn't mean you have to go into a gym. You could literally go out to walk if you want to. You could go for a swim, you know, but I think there are a lot of pressures on people to go to a gym to keep fit. And the amount of ladies that come to me who either have medical problems or problems where it lies around self-esteem, confidence, where they don't want to step into a gym, they want to just feel good in their own skin, but they haven't got the confidence to go into the gym. And that's why I'm launching this studio and a lot of the work that I do, because I'd like to work with people on the mental aspect of understanding more about what the fitness industry involves and their own self-esteem, to try and link the two together. So for me, it's going to be quite an interesting yet challenging project, because you are constantly working against these stereotypical views and that come with it.
That's a really good point, and I think it's really important that people like yourself who walk their talk, you're out there, you're living it, you do it, can break those barriers down, because I think that's really important. mentally as much as physically to be active. I think it's a good way to connect other people. Yeah. From a social point of view, you can play sports with your family, you can go for a walk with your friends, you can go to the gym and make friends, that's your thing. Also, the chemicals we know are produced in the brain are quite powerful too. And it's a really, really good thing, other than the benefits of the image. For me, the heart rate, the physiological benefits, there's loads of science out to suggest that if you're active, you've got a lesser chance. Obviously, these things correlate with other things. I mean, I'm a medical person. I deal with the mind in that respect, but there's plenty of literature out there saying that you can reduce your chances if you're fit of things like diabetes, cancer, and all that sort of stuff. There's many other correlations. I'm not sort of saying if you go to the gym, you're going to eliminate that, but there is research if you sort of read it. I'm sure you're aware, cholesterol, that sort of stuff is only a beneficial thing, which sort of brings me to nutrition. Now, one of the things I sort of noticed in my experience on my journey is, let's say, for example, people sort of neglect the nutritional side. And I think sometimes people fall into the trap where they go into a gym and, fair enough, they train really hard, they put the effort in, but they sort of forget that you could run on a treadmill for an hour and burn 200 calories, and you could do a big session for an hour and maybe burn a couple of calories. And then you take a chocolate bar, and that's probably 500 or 600 calories. I know people interpret calories different these days, and there's a bit of a debate going on. I'm well aware of that. And I know some food has more nutritional value. Say, 50 calories in an apple is going to be better than processed sugar that has the same. So I'm well aware of that. But the point I'm getting to is, irrespective of what people's perception of calories is, the bottom line is that the more you consume in poor calories, junk food, processed food, the more you're going to gain weight and also have health issues too. And the point I'm making is that sometimes people think they're training really hard but don't realize just how important, in my perception, I think nutrition in terms of weight management and reduction is probably about, say, 75%. That's my own sort of theory. And the reason being is that, okay, if you consume about, say, I'm going to go back to sort of using old money now, 3,500 calories, you're talking about a pound of weight, so to speak. I know things have changed since then, but let's sort of stay with that for now. You think to exercise that off, you'd need to do nearly half a marathon, or if not even more. And that's a sort of frightening thing for me. And also on top of that, people eating food that's so nutritionally dense. They go through they do a session, which is fantastic. They go through a drive-through, and they have 1,000 calories worth of junk food. That's very high in fat and sugar and everything else. What's your perception of nutrition? How important is it to you?
Well, for me, the way I kind of put it very briefly and analyse this to people is, the bodies weren't made to process things like additives, preservatives. And what we see today is a massive pattern increasing health problems around, and I'll use this particular diagnosis because it's coming out more and more these days, but fibromyalgia, for example. And I've had quite a few clients that have been diagnosed with this. And the symptoms, it's very difficult to diagnose it because basically it can be linked to anxiety, depression. There's so many different points in the criteria to link it to. But what I'm trying to get to is, one of the things that I've said to these people is, have you got artificial sweeteners in your diet? Have you got junk food in your diet? And they're all like, yes, 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 yes. And the minute I gave them just basically a sensible, clean diet that involves nutritional foods, chicken, tuna, greens, rice, everyone knows what is classed as healthy foods. The difference is amazing in people. It's too easy these days to go through a drive-through. I understand that there isn't enough healthier convenience options. But like for me, if I'm on the road and I call off at a services, you know, I can quite easily go into a Marks and Spencer's and get a couple of packets of ham, you know, a salad. Yeah, okay, so people like, it doesn't taste as good, but it's because the taste is coming from the additives that's in it. For me, nutrition is, yeah, really important. And, you know, if you're not competing, you don't have to necessarily be really strict like I do. It's just about understanding what's healthy and what our bodies have been designed to take in and process.
Now, that's an interesting point that you make there. And I think sort of tailoring a plan to ourselves is quite useful. I think it's tough. I think in terms of, you know, things like, I mean, I'm not a medical person. I deal with the mind, and I have some experience of working in fitness too, but predominantly I sort of do the mind side of things. And it's hard because there's no real simplistic explanations about causation, about some of these models. But certainly I would certainly agree that uncovering every stone and sort of looking at our nutrition, looking at, you know, there's many variables like, you know, genes and genetic and environment. There's so many things that to take into consideration, but certainly there's been a lot of research to sort of show the correlation of nutrition in a number of conditions, from like you mentioned, fibromyalgia right through to autoimmune. Now, that's not to say that that's the only thing, and I'm sure that, you know, there's a number of other things, and some people work for some person, some might not work for somebody else. So I always think it's always wise to use an eclectic approach where you kind of tailor it for the individual in terms of, you know, certain conditions. Obviously, the best advice is to, you know, get from the appropriate professional. So in the case of, say, you know, I'll just see a medical person. But certainly, you make some really good points there about the correlation of nutrition. And I think for me, sometimes there is a temptation, especially in weight reduction, that to think that you're training hard, and because you think you're training hard, you start thinking you can eat a lot more. And sometimes people, like, one of the things I do when I sort of work with people from the cognitive point of view, I say, well, fill in your nutritional. I recommend they see someone in that area rather than me, because there's better people in that area than me to work with them from the nutrition point of view. But I still get them to write down like a diary, so they can sort of see for themselves. Because most people don't realise that, yeah, they might be eating okay for 80% of the time, but it's that extra chocolate bar a day, that extra 500 calories a day over the space of a week tips you over the edge. And that's what the problem is, you know, that's the thing for me. And you know, nobody, well, I've never met anyone who's put, you know, 2 stone on overnight. And I think sometimes people have got, like, you know, life gets in the way. People have babies, people have stress, and it's understandable to fluctuate the weight. Yes, that I think is understandable. I think people should be compassionate with themselves. But the point being for me is that I think some people are unrealistic in the sense that they expect to lose or reduce the weight in an instant. These plans and notions, rather than, you know what, it took me 3. I mean, I always talk, when was the last time you got your ideal weight? You know, and think about the period it took to put it on, and maybe think a third, you know, because you don't go to bed and wake up and you're 3 or 4 stone. It takes time. And I think for me, it's sort of a journey, you know. And I think if you find something like you found to sort of keep yourself going, you're sort of a fitness professional and do fitness modeling, great. But also there's other things people can do, you know, maybe badminton, maybe sign up to karate, just for an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think for me is a good thing. But I like that it's a little bit more about, say, the modeling you do. It's quite interesting, the fitness modeling. That sort of, how long has that fitness modeling been going on? I'm not too familiar with it. I'm sure a lot of the people watching aren't quite sure how that works.
Yeah, well, for me, initially it was about building myself up. So I used the two to bring them together. So I started competing. But before I was into the fitness industry, I'd done a bit of modelling anyway, but that was outside of the fitness industry. And as I've kind of grown in the fitness industry, I've incorporated the two together. And for me, I think it was just, obviously it's a big trend at the moment, isn't it, to kind of introduce that kind of sexy fitness look. You know, people are utilising those kind of pictures more and more these days, and whether that's a good or a bad thing, that could be argued. But for me, it's the mindset of appreciating that person's body, that project, you know, what they've kind of worked towards. Because don't forget, I'm not perfect. I've been there, I've done that. So whatever I speak about, it's not because I'm preaching to people that this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, because I've been there myself. I've been on a roller coaster. I've experienced the highs, the lows, the mind that's become weak, the mind that's then strong, you know, that I'm never doing it again, the binge eating, not eating the right foods, eating the right foods. So everything that I say here is not because, you know, I'm saying, oh, this is what you shouldn't do because I'm perfect. I'm just basically relaying it from experience because of what I've been through, you know, and fortunately I've come across a lot of people in this industry, and that's another positive thing, who have completely supported me through and given me strength, you know, in addition to helping me just to stay on track or get back on track when I fell off. And, you know, for me, in the modelling side just allows me to express a little bit more of who I am. And again, just gives me an extra avenue within the industry, if you like, creates more opportunities for me. And plus it's just something that I enjoy. And any young people out there, or even people that are, you know, of the older age that want to get into any form of modelling, whether that's just because you want to do a photo shoot for yourself, because you want to feel good, you know, do it. And that's another thing that I offer with people, because it's confidence, it's learning about your body, and eventually just learning to love the skin you're in. You know, if you are slightly overweight, it does not mean that you're not beautiful. You know, I choose to look this way because I'm comfy in my skin. And that's the message I try and deliver to a lot of people. Everyone will have a judgment on how everyone else looks, positive and negative. And you have to be able to learn to control how you process that information and how personally you take it. You know, and again, it's finding that strength to, well, that's fine, that's your opinion, but am I happy in my own skin? If the answer is yes, then that's fine. If it's not, then look around. Who can support you to get to where you want to be? What are your goals? How can you get there? I'm not saying to everyone you have to go to the gym and you have to be a particular size or you have to look a particular way. I'm just saying do whatever you want to do that'll, if you want to improve your health, fine. If you want to lose weight, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Because who am I to judge anyone, you know? So, but for me, it's just about doing what I love and what I have a passion for. And if I can give anything back to anybody else from what I've learned and my experiences, then I would be more than happy to do that, because, you know, I know how long and dark roads can be sometimes. And where I am in this industry, I'm there because of what other things in my life I've experienced. And this is just somewhere where I've been to find strength, and that makes me happy. And gives me satisfaction out of me and what I do.
That's really interesting stuff, and you know, I think that's a fascinating insight into what you do, what inspires you to do what you do, and carry on doing it. From the outside looking in, I can imagine a lot of people who have considering going into modelling, any sort of modelling, be it fitness modelling, would probably see it as being a little bit daunting in respect that, I don't want to put ideas into your mind, by the way, but I can see how people can see it a little bit daunting, because, you know, you're out there and there's people who've got, you know, 2%, 3% body fat type thing, and whatever it is they have, and you know, credit to them, by the way, you know, credit to them, they've worked hard for it. I mean, I remember years ago when I used to do many years ago, it's going back a long time ago, and I used to do some work in the fitness industry too, and people would come up to me, and I used to deal with the mind and the physique, the physical side of things, and people would say to me when they joined the gym, I used to work this really exclusive personal training centre in London, one of the first ones that opened in the UK a long time ago, and we were working with a lot of professional sports people and footballers and teams, and we'd have individuals who'd come in to do some training at a little centre. They'd say, well, I'd say, what's your goal? And me being sort of, you know, many years ago now, people would say, well, I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm like, well, you don't have to worry about that. you know, unless you're willing to train 8 hours a day, you'll be fine. So there's sort of perception people have about doing strength training. They think that they're going to do a few strength sessions, and you know, I mean, people work damn hard to get there. And I admire them. You know, fair play to them. It's not easy to eat well, to be disciplined, and to be focused. And I hear you speak about the mental side. How important is the mental side for you to stay disciplined? You know, I've recently gone to a plant-based diet. And I admit, over the weekend, every weekend comes along, and I blow it. I end up, you know, having pizza and pasta. I stayed off the meat for many years, but there's a sort of limit. But it takes a lot of discipline. And how do you do the discipline? It's pretty tough.
Yeah, it is very tough. And I think that a lot of the discipline that I've got is because I've been there, done that, tried it, and it's simply not worth it, you know. But I also take a lot of pressure off myself, because the mind is a powerful thing. So the minute you say to yourself, I'm on a diet and I am not allowed, you will want that thing and you will crave it. So for me, it's about, yes, I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm going to eat healthy. And if I kind of fall off track a little bit, then, you know, I just know that I need to pull it back. If you start to put too much pressure on yourself, you know, your mind will kind of collapse and, you know, go into overdrive, and then you're in this negative spiral. But I've been there where, like, for example, I finished a show. So I've done like 6 to 8 weeks of complete clean diet, finished a show and gone out and completely, you know, ate whatever I wanted. Yeah. And it really wasn't worth it, because one, I'm putting things in my body that are processed. My body isn't used to it. It made me so poorly. I didn't feel any better for it. Yes, it tasted nice, but it was an extreme. You know, I've done times where I've been prepping for a show, and I've just like know that I've told myself, right, I'm not allowed any chocolate, and all I've done is crave it, gone out of bars and completely scoffed the lot. And then after, I felt so depressed because I thought, why have I just done that? So through all that and my own experiences, I've learned to manage things better. And I just basically, when that time comes, it's like, do I actually really want it? Is it worth it? Could I maybe just have a little bit of something? And because my diet, you know, incorporates some flexibility, especially when I'm not prepping for a show. And don't forget, not everybody wants to prep for a show. It's just you want to lose weight. So there's no reason why you can't have some flexibility in your diet, you know? And I think as soon as you start to kind of just train your mind to think that, and the pressure's off, it becomes a lot easier to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And for me, it's just basically, it centers around just how I feel. And I do a lot of traveling around the world doing seminars, and I like to give 200% in seminars, and I know how I feel. So I sort of, these days, I sort of adopt the 80-20 rule. That's my sort of philosophy, where I sort of, you know, and to be fair, the food I do eat, I don't see it as a stretch. It's not like I don't like it. I do like it. But from a social point of view, sometimes from a social point of view, they'll go out on the weekend and I'll sort of say, you know, fair enough, whatever. I'll just, you know, I won't go overboard, because like you said, I think certainly kind of adapt to it. And I feel it, if not straight away, a few days afterwards, you know, when I'm on the road, for sure. Yeah. You just got to find what works for you. And for yourself, what would you say your biggest achievements in your industry has been? You've sort of done really well, and I think you're quite modest about your own. You know, you've done really well. You've traveled. You've done good in your industry. What would you say your biggest achievements are?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of competing, my achievements, obviously, these past 2 years, I've done particularly well in placing first, receiving pro cards. I was part of like Miami Pro Universe last year, and I won that. And I've just recently moved over to the IFBB League, which is a great, you know, federation, and it's a league that I've always wanted to be involved in. So I can really obviously see myself getting quite involved with that particular federation. And when I did my show three weeks ago, I got first place for that. So it was, for me, that was the biggest achievement, because IFBB is something that I've kind of always looked at, but thought I'm not really sure if I'm good enough, and went for it, and you know, was quite successful. So I've got quite you know, a few awards in terms of competing. But for me, it's like when I sit back, and it's been a process, and I think my biggest achievement is just how I found the mental strength to deal with things in life a lot better, and just to become a better person, and start to realize that, you know, there's no point in me comparing myself to X, Y, Z. Yes, it's good to appreciate them, but I'm never going to be them. So I need to work with the best of me, of what I've got of me. And I think as soon as you start to do that and understand that, you know, you are you as an individual, you start to become more content and happy with yourself. You know, I'm nowhere near perfect, and I'm very, you know, I'm not saying that I have every day where I'm completely happy and wow, it's amazing. I don't at all. I have negative days and days where I want to change this about myself, but I handle them better. I have a better mental attitude to them. And I think, you know, if I can just help anyone else in the industry or in the general lifestyle, just by giving some support around mental attitude, not necessarily physical, then for me, that's an achievement, because, you know, I prefer to see, I get more happiness out of seeing someone that uses or sees me as an inspiration and uses it to keep them going than I do out of standing up there and getting a trophy or a medal for a first place. And I actually genuinely do. You know, I've seen people who have struggled with self-esteem, weight, and just generals that come into the gym, and they've said to me, I've started following you and I watch you and you're inspirational and you've helped me get my health back on track, or you've just given me some motivation. And that for me is just worth so much, because I can relate to where that person's been and where they've come to. So, and you can't buy that.
No, that's really interesting stuff. And I think, you know, it's sort of getting the balance. And I think certainly you should be proud of your achievements because you work hard to achieve it. And I think sometimes in society, in my experience, when I work with people, that it's kind of like they're kind of, I wouldn't say ashamed, but they're frightened to tell people they've done something well, because I think what's the reaction going to be, you know? And I say, you know what, you've done well, share it, you know, you put the effort in. And you know, the point being is that some people sort of, they hold it all in and they kind of think, you know what, they don't want to sort of share. And I think it inspires people. There's going to always be people out there, you know, the haters, no matter what you do, you know, and that's just projecting their own. That's just their own self issues that they need to work on, for sure. There's plenty of them out there, and you can't please everyone, you know. But I think ultimately, I think that if you do well and you win first place, or even if you compete, if you're out there, if you're doing something, whatever it is, then why not, you know? I think it's nice, and it's quite emotional sometimes when you speak to people, and it's like they just keep everything in, and, you know, they're afraid to sort of share whatever that success might be, because I think we live in a world where sometimes we kind of knock people down for doing well, and I think that it's quite a shame, really. And I think, you know, people do well, you work hard for it, and I think it'll inspire people to want to do well. I think it's a really good thing to do that. No, definitely. And yeah.
On the other side of it, when I've been in a particular federation or competition where I've kind of fell between two criterias, so I've taken a decent package, but I've not kind of fitted either class, and therefore I've not placed, I still tell people about that too. Because people to know that, you know, it's not seen as failing, it's just the industry and the way that it works. And I remember once I put a post on about it, and the amount of people that just responded saying, oh, wow, you know, it totally put me off competing because I never wanted to do it again. I'm like, no. For me, that fuels me. That sets me another challenge. That's like, right, okay, so what do I need to do now to move on to the next stage? If you don't want to compete again, that's fine. If you want to use it, for me, negativity fuels me in an ironic way. So if anyone says to me, you know, oh, no, you're not good enough, or that's fine. That's okay. I can take that. I deal with it. I've learned to deal with it better. And for me, that just gives me that extra fuel that I need to move on to the next stage. Not everyone works like that. And again, that's fine. But yeah, you know, you are right in what you say. It is sad that, you know, you can't, or some people feel that it's, you know, I don't want to be seen as big-headed, or I don't want to be seen as I love myself because I've achieved this or I've done so well. But I'm at the stage now because of what I've been through and because of the haters. But thanks to them, it's made me the person that I am now. And basically, you know, not everyone will like me. You'll all have an opinion, and that's fine. But I'm happy with what I do and who I am. And for me, that's all I ever bring it back to.
No, I that's a good message to send out to people. I think that, you know, it's an inspiring message because people will be watching thinking, you know what, I've just won a tournament. I've just passed a course at university. I've just, you know, passed, you know, whatever really. I've, you know, done something for myself. that I've always wanted to do, and I want to share it, and they feel they can't share it. And I was doing a seminar one time, and this young man, after the seminar, people sort of come along and they want to sort of chat, and he sort of told me about an achievement he'd done. It was in Taekwondo, and he said he just passed something that he'd always wanted to do and didn't think he could do it. And he said, I was the first person outside his own nuclear family that he'd told. And I said, well, why is that? He goes, because if I tell people, they're going to think I'm bragging. And I said, look, dude, we live in a world where we kind of want to put a lid on people. It's like, if you feel that that's something you want to share and you've worked so hard to do it, then you're going to inspire the next person who is where you were when you started your journey. And you're damned if you're doing this, well, damned if you don't. You're not going to please everyone, I think the key thing, have the right intention in the end and set your stall out and go from there. But I just felt really sad. I felt really emotional afterwards. I thought, isn't it sad in this world that, people are afraid to share something that they work so hard to do. And, I've always been one of the sort of people who sort of seen the world that, when they give awards for people who've gotten beaten, it devalues the winner, really. And then it also, if you win, that's part of life. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, really, winning and losing, but that's a fact of life we live in. And that's the rules. And I think sometimes, we can't all be good at everything.
No.
Some people do well at one thing, some the other. And we shouldn't undermine someone who does well in the sport, or academically, or whatever they might do, because we don't want to upset everybody else. That's just life. And we've all been upset. No, that you have, I've been, and we grow from it. And I played sport at the highest level from a coaching point of view, particularly. And I've got beat many times. And I've learned more from the losses than I have from the wins. And you go back and you go again, you get stronger. But that's really interesting stuff. And if you were going to sort of start your competing again, what advice would you give your younger self? You're going to start on your journey again. Any sort of pearls of wisdom that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, the biggest one for me is to not compare myself with anyone else. And it's only kind of, honestly, in these past 12 months, I've actually been able to implement that, because it is difficult. There is a boundary. There is you see someone and I want to be that. Why can't I be like that? So bring it back. You are you. You can do the best of you. You take the best version of you. And if you're happy with whatever you do, that's what it comes down to. Then, use that to fuel yourself forward. I know there was a lady speaking to me in my gym the other day, and she was really upset because she's really got into fitness at the moment, and all of her family are giving her negative comments. You're losing too much weight. You're becoming obsessed. And it was basically knocking her confidence in what she did. And I just had a chat with her and I was like, look, forget all those contributing factors that are surrounding you. Are you happy with what you are doing for you? She was like, yeah. I went, that's all that matters. You just carry on that path then. Let them say, don't bother continually trying to justify and defend yourself, because they won't listen. If they've got their opinion set, they've got it set, and we all have different opinions. And I said, you're just going to have to accept that that's going to happen. I said, but if you're actually doing this for you and you're happy with what you're doing, then you're just going to have to diffuse the rest.
No, definitely, I agree. I think a lot of the time it's just projection. They're projecting their own selves on other people. I think that it's so unconsciously unconscious that they don't even realize it. Generally speaking, it's things they need to work on themselves, because, at the end of the day, I think, from my opinion anyway, I think some people just project their own negativity, their own baggage on other people. And it's so deep, really, that they don't even realize they're doing it. And for yourself, what's next? Where do you go from here? I mean, you sort of, you got yourself at a great level, and you sort of, you're doing really well in your career in many aspects. And sort of, where do you go from here? What's your next step?
My plan is to go to the IFBB Alicante 2 Bros show, which is the back end of October. Out there to compete with them and see how I do. So hoping for another first, and maybe go into the open category and get a first with them. And if I'm really lucky, my pro card with them, because I just started with IFBB. So I need to work towards getting my pro card with them. So if not, then I'm going to come away, take the feedback, and I'm going to be obviously having a break over the Christmas period, getting back into new plans next year and doing exactly what I need to do to make sure next year I get that pro card, because that's my aim. And in addition to that, I'm going to be continually growing my online coaching, and my studio opens on the 1st of October with a private studio. So obviously I'll be working on promoting and developing that, really. And then any other opportunities that come along. I've got the new brand, the supplement brand that's huge, coming over from America, working with Mr. JT. So that'll be being launched as well. And hopefully be part of Body Power again next year. So quite a lot going on.
That's amazing. That's really good stuff. It's, it seems like, definitely sort of, onwards and upwards, going in a direction, really, really good for you. And it must be really exciting to do the open the fitness studio. Is that?
Yeah, it's because I have this passion about it, and I've seen kind of gaps in the industry where people want to kind of make that next step but can't, because of reasons that we spoke about before, whether that's image, self-confidence, just being intimidated by the gym environment. Even sometimes people that do go into the gym and they really just don't have a clue what they're doing, or the technique's really poor. And it's if just people like that, really, that just want to come along and just find out how to train better, just to learn a little bit more about themselves, or do the posing classes, so they'll be able to come in and learn how to, if they want to do a photo shoot, for example, just learn how to use their body, their curves, their beauty, to portray themselves in a particular way, so they feel good in their own skin. So quite a lot going on, really, but yeah, hopefully it'll grow quite well.
And is the gym going to be predominantly for fitness models and models, or will it be a balance?
For anyone, really. I know, I mentioned before about sometimes ladies that come to me that have got a few medical problems, and it's not necessarily that stops them going into the gym. It just has an effect on their confidence, because maybe medications made them put weight on, and they want to train somewhere where it's private, and they're just more comfortable, training with one, a female, and two in an environment where it's just them and me. So it caters for quite a wide range of people, even the young girls, like, who maybe want to lose some weight. Obesity is a massive thing, isn't it? So there may be, obviously you're going to get a 14-15-year-old girl that doesn't want to go to the gym because she's getting bullied, peer pressure, called because of her size. So she might want to get fit and lose some weight, but really just doesn't want to participate in any other activities that are out there. So she's, she could, even lads, but more so, it's kind of women, because of who I've had contact me. That's why I make reference to a lot of females. For her to contact me and say, I want to come in, I just want to get a little bit fitter, feel better in myself, that's fine. If it helps them, then that's fine. That's all that I'm concerned about.
That's really interesting stuff. And if you just sort of give us an insight to competing, I mean, people probably look at the photos of people who compete, and so that the event you've got, is it in Alicante, did you mention?
Alicante.
Yeah. So when you go to the sort of events, what's it like when you sort of step in there, and if there's music, there's people walking around, and what feeling do you get when you sort of go in there, and do you feel nervous at all? Do you get
No, I used to, but now, for me, it's like I just get this amazing rush of adrenaline, and I absolutely love it. And it's very interesting how people are like, oh my, they say to me, like, you must be absolutely full of confidence to do what you do. And in a very strange way, not necessarily. It's just that's where I feel I belong when I'm on that stage. I just go somewhere else, and that's just what I love to do. But yes, of course, you've got to be fairly confident in your own skin. I get that. But that's grown over time with things that I've dealt with in my life, and it's not something that comes overnight. So
that's really interesting stuff, and it's really fascinating, because you see people in who work in the arts, like in acting, in music, in even doing seminars where they can. I mean, I'm saying they're completely introverted, they're kind of quiet and whatever outside what they do, but then when they sort of step in, and I speak from my own experience, I do a lot of seminars around the world, and people say to me when they sort of speak to me on a one-on-one that I'm quite introverted and quiet person, actually. When you get on there, it's like a whole different demeanor. You can't just, you turn it on, and that's a really interesting thing. So be able to sort of switch, and I think that's really important. I think for any sports person, any professional, sort of once you cross that white line, get your game head on, and you're on the way, you know. And equally, you know, obviously some people are more. Different people have got different personality traits. But that's quite a fascinating thing that's I sort of been doing some research on. But just before we go, it's been very kind to join us. If anyone does want to get in touch, if you have any details they can get in touch with, Yvette, so you got any contact details?
At the moment, obviously, Instagram, Facebook, Yvette Geary. I'm on there, so you can contact me either through a message on there or Messenger, Facebook, whatever's easiest. There's an email address on my Instagram account as well, which is YvetteGeary@me.com. So by all means, just get in touch. You know, I always say to people, you know, there's never no pressure. You know, you may just want general information. You may just want some advice or pointing in the right direction. And, you know, if I can help you, then I will.
No, definitely. So, no, definitely. Thanks for that. We look forward to see how you get on in your next competitions, and best wishes with the opening of the new fitness studio. We wish you all the best with that. So, thanks for coming on board, and
thank you.
And hopefully we'll go out of it. Thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.